Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. In the vastness of space, where stars shimmered like distant jewels, the border of humanity's expansion teetered on the edge of annihilation. The Navarra system, a remote cluster of planets, had become a death trap. Settlements that had once promised a new frontier for humanity were now silent graves, overtaken by a terrifying unknown. With communications severed, outposts ravaged, and colonization efforts grinding to a halt, the mission fell to an elite group, the Hunter Squad led by Harry. Harry stood aboard the command deck of the Vanguard, the dropship carrying his team to the surface of the primary planet, codenamed Theta Prime. A seasoned leader with sharp instincts and years of tactical experience, Harry was trusted to lead humanity's last hope in neutralizing this mysterious threat. His squad was no ordinary military unit. They were specialists in hunting, each hand-picked for their ability to adapt to the unknown. His sharp eyes scanned the desolate landscape of Theta Prime as the ship descended into the atmosphere. The terrain below was barren, marked by jagged cliffs and valleys that seemed to stretch into an endless horizon of nothingness. No signs of life, human or otherwise, greeted them, but Harry knew better. The creatures were out there, watching, waiting for their moment to strike. Landing sequence initiated, came the pilot's voice over the intercom. Harry adjusted the strap of his rifle and turned to his team. Their faces, obscured by helmets and visors, betrayed little emotion, but he knew what they were feeling. There was always that gnawing pit of uncertainty before a mission like this. Fear, adrenaline, and focus danced in delicate harmony. "All right, listen up," Harry said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had survived more hunts than most would dare imagine. "We have no intel on these creatures except their ability to ambush and slaughter without warning. This is no ordinary hunt. They're smart, organized, and possibly more dangerous than anything we've encountered before. Stay sharp." To his left was Red, the squad's demolitions expert, a hulking figure with a penchant for solving problems with explosives. Next to him stood Jax, the sniper with a deadly aim, who had taken out more high-value targets than anyone in the team's history. Lana, the medic, was unflappable, her calm under pressure balancing the often frantic energy of her teammates. And lastly, Rook, the tech specialist, whose expertise in drones and tactical systems often provided the squad an edge in the most unpredictable situations. As the Vanguard touched down on the rocky surface with a hiss of hydraulic pressure, the ramp lowered, revealing the harsh, windswept landscape of Theta Prime. Dust swirled in thick gusts, and visibility was already compromised. Perfect conditions for the creatures to strike. "Eyes up," Harry ordered as the squad moved into position, weapons at the ready. They advanced, fanning out in a calculated sweep. The nearest abandoned outpost loomed ahead like a skeleton, its metal framework twisted and shattered from what looked like a vicious battle. Scorched marks and torn barricades lined the exterior, remnants of a last-ditch defense. "Rook, get me a scan," Harry said. Rook's gloved fingers tapped against a wrist console, and a small drone buzzed into the air, hovering silently as it began mapping the area. The holographic display on Rook's visor flickered to life, showing no immediate signs of life. But that wasn't reassuring. Harry knew from experience that the absence of movement could be just as dangerous. "They're here," Harry muttered under his breath. As the squad approached the outpost, Harry's gut twisted with that familiar sense of foreboding. The creatures had attacked fast before, wiping out teams with precision. He raised a hand, signaling the squad to halt. They crouched low, blending into the broken terrain, waiting. A sudden blur in the corner of his eye. Something moved, fast. It was as if the landscape itself had shifted, a ripple in the air that was almost imperceptible. But Harry's instincts screamed at him, "Contact," he shouted, raising his rifle just as a creature lunged from the shadows. It was unlike anything they had seen before. The beast was massive, its body covered in chameleon-like scales that shifted and blended seamlessly with the rocky backdrop. It moved with lethal grace, claws slashing through the air toward Lana. She barely dodged, rolling to the side as Jax fired a shot from his sniper rifle. The bullet struck the creature's flank, but it barely flinched, twisting in midair with terrifying speed. "Keep moving," Harry barked, as the squad scattered into tactical positions. Red unleashed a barrage of explosives, setting off a controlled detonation that sent shockwaves through the ground. Dust and debris clouded the air, momentarily disorienting the creature. Harry didn't waste a second, taking aim and firing a burst of rounds into its exposed underbelly. The beast screeched, its voice a guttural howl that echoed through the valley. It staggered, wounded, but still alive. "Jax, hit it again," Harry ordered. A second shot rang out, this time finding its mark between the creature's eyes. With a final convulsion, the beast collapsed, its massive form thudding to the ground, sending a tremor through the earth. Silence fell over the team as they cautiously approached the fallen creature. Its scales flickered, fading from their natural camouflage into a deep, mottled brown. Up close, the beast was even more fearsome, razor-sharp claws, rows of serrated teeth, and muscles built for speed and power. "That's one," Harry muttered, though he knew it was far from the last. As Rook scanned the area, he noticed something unusual, a faint energy signature coming from deeper within the creature's den. "Commander, I'm picking up something. There's a strange material in the nest." Harry approached cautiously, stepping into the shadows of the cavernous den where the creature had emerged. What he saw stopped him cold. In the center of the nest lay a cluster of glowing crystals, pulsing faintly with a strange, otherworldly energy. He crouched down, careful not to touch them, and waved Rook over. "What the hell is this?" Rook whispered, scanning the material. Harry's mind raced. The substance didn't match any known elements. It was something entirely new, perhaps the reason these creatures had evolved to be such deadly predators. He had a gnawing suspicion that this material held power beyond their understanding, and possibly beyond their control, but there wasn't time to dwell. The creatures were still out there, and they wouldn't stop hunting. "We'll take samples, but don't touch them directly," Harry ordered, his voice steady. "This could be our key to survival, or it could be the reason these things are here. Either way, we need to finish the mission." The squad gathered themselves for the next phase of the hunt, knowing that the deeper they ventured, the more dangerous it would become. As they moved forward, a sense of unease settled over Harry. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something far bigger than just a hunt. The substance was a discovery that could change everything. If they lived long enough to report it, the hunt was far from over. Harry's team pressed on through the jagged terrain of Theta Prime, the glowing crystals pulsing faintly in the back of their minds. There was no time to reflect on the implications of their discovery, not with the threat of more creatures looming. Their footsteps crunched on the hard ground as they moved deeper into the planet's wilderness, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the creature's territory. Harry's visor flickered with data streams fed from Rook's drones, mapping out the landscape and scanning for signs of life. The readings were sporadic, the creatures too adept at hiding their presence until it was too late. That made them all the more dangerous, and that much more challenging to hunt. They moved in silence, the squad's tactical instincts kicking in as they traversed the rocky cliffs and deep valleys. Harry's mind churned, not only on the mission but on the strange crystals they had found. Could these glowing materials be linked to the creature's abilities? Did they somehow enhance their strength, their speed, their deadly precision? Or was it something more sinister, something that could be weaponized if humanity understood how to harness it? Red, the demolitions expert, broke the silence. Think these things are guarding that stuff? His voice was gruff through the comms, but there was an edge of uncertainty. Harry didn't answer right away. He didn't have the luxury of guessing. "We'll find out soon enough," he said finally, his voice calm but firm. "Stay sharp. This isn't over." Lana kept pace beside him, her medical kit strapped tight across her back, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. She didn't need to say anything for Harry to know what she was thinking. They'd been through enough together. Each mission carried a weight, the lives of their squad mates, the success of humanity's future in the galaxy. There was no room for error. Suddenly, Rook's voice came over the comms, urgent. "Commander, picking up movement ahead. Multiple contacts." Harry raised a fist, signaling the squad to halt. They dropped into defensive positions, eyes forward. The terrain ahead sloped downward into a narrow canyon, the walls high and uneven, offering the creatures the perfect opportunity for an ambush. It was just like the last time, only now they knew what to expect. "Jax, get eyes on the targets," Harry said. Jax, already in position, steadied his sniper rifle and peered through the scope. His breath was slow, controlled. "I've got 3, no, 4, make that 5. He paused. "They're waiting." Harry's jaw tightened. The creatures were learning, adapting. That was a problem. "Red, set charges. We'll force them out." Red grinned beneath his visor. "My pleasure." As Red moved forward, laying explosive charges along the canyon walls, Harry strategized. They couldn't afford to be drawn into a prolonged fight, not with the possibility of more creatures lying in wait. They had to act quickly, hit hard, and move on. His mind raced with scenarios, each one playing out the way the creatures might respond. "Ready," Red reported, retreating to a safe distance. Harry gave the signal. "Do it." The ground trembled as the charges detonated, sending rocks and debris cascading down the canyon walls. The air filled with dust and smoke, obscuring the creatures' camouflaged forms. But Harry knew better. They were there, lurking, waiting for the moment to strike. "Here they come." Jax shouted. The creatures burst from the shadows, their massive bodies moving with terrifying speed despite the chaos of the explosion. Their scales shifted, trying to blend into the debris, but the team was ready. Jax fired, the sharp crack of his sniper rifle echoing through the canyon. One of the creatures dropped, a bullet through its eye. The others surged forward, undeterred. Harry and Red opened fire, their rifles spitting rounds into the advancing beasts. The creatures moved with deadly coordination, their pack-like behavior even more pronounced now. One of them lunged at Lana, its claws swiping through the air. She ducked and rolled, narrowly avoiding the lethal strike, before returning fire with her sidearm. The battle raged, each second a test of survival. Harry's team moved as one, years of training and experience guiding their actions. But the creatures were relentless, their sheer numbers overwhelming. For every one they killed, 2 more seemed to appear, their movements faster, their attacks more vicious. Harry's mind raced. The creatures were evolving, becoming more aggressive, more strategic. And they weren't just hunting the squad, they were defending something. "The crystals, fall back," Harry ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to regroup." The squad retreated, fighting every step of the way as the creatures pressed their advantage. Harry fired a burst into one of the creatures' chests, but it barely slowed. Jax took another down with a well-placed shot, but it was clear they couldn't hold this position for long. "Commander, we've got a problem," Rook's voice crackled through the comms. "I'm picking up more of those energy readings. They're coming from deeper inside the canyon." Harry's blood ran cold. The creatures weren't just protecting the crystals, they were being drawn to them. The energy signatures were like a beacon, attracting the beasts, making them more dangerous with every passing second. "We need to get to those crystals," Harry said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "If we can destroy the source, maybe we can stop these things from coming." The squad moved, covering each other as they fought their way through the canyon. The creatures were relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. But Harry was determined. He wouldn't let this mission fail. He wouldn't let these creatures threaten humanity's future. As they pressed forward, the crystal's glow became more intense, their energy pulsing in rhythmic waves. The closer they got, the more the creatures seemed to go berserk, their attacks becoming frenzied, desperate. Harry led the charge, his rifle blazing. Red threw a grenade into a cluster of creatures, the explosion sending them flying. Jax picked off the stragglers with precision shots, while Lana kept the team moving, her medical expertise on full display as she patched up wounds mid-battle. Finally, they reached the source of the energy. A massive cave loomed ahead, the entrance guarded by the largest creature they had seen yet. It stood twice as tall as the others, its scales glowing with the same eerie light as the crystals. It roared, a sound that shook the ground beneath their feet. Harry's eyes narrowed. "That's the Alpha." The team didn't need further instructions. They spread out, taking cover behind rocks and debris as they prepared for the final confrontation. The Alpha charged, its claws digging into the earth as it barreled toward them. "Hit it with everything you've got," Harry shouted. Red tossed another grenade, the explosion rocking the canyon. But the Alpha kept coming, its scales absorbing much of the impact. Jax fired shot after shot, each one finding its mark, but the creature didn't slow. Harry knew they couldn't afford to let it get close. If it reached them, they were done. He switched to his sidearm, firing rapidly as he moved, his mind racing for a solution, and then he saw it, the crystals embedded in the Alpha's chest, glowing brighter than any they had seen before. The source of its power. The key to stopping it. "Jax, the crystals." Harry called out. Jax didn't hesitate. He adjusted his aim, focusing on the glowing mass at the creature's chest. The Alpha roared again, sensing the danger, but it was too late. Jax fired, the bullet hit the crystal's dead center. There was a blinding flash of light, followed by a deafening explosion. The Alpha let out a final, agonized roar before collapsing to the ground, its massive form crumpling into a lifeless heap. The remaining creatures, sensing the death of their leader, scattered into the shadows, their once coordinated attacks now reduced to chaos. The team stood there, panting, battered, but victorious. The crystals lay shattered at their feet, their glow fading into darkness. Harry looked around at his team. They had survived, against all odds. But as he stared down at the remnants of the crystals, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. "We did it," Red said, his voice filled with a mix of relief and exhaustion. Harry nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere. The crystals had given the creatures their power, but what else could they do? What had they really discovered here? As the dust settled and the squad began their extraction, Harry knew one thing for sure: the hunt was over, but the real danger had just begun.